Welcome once again. My name is Tomáš Novotný. So welcome to today's brief webinar. It is an extra webinar which we didn't originally plan, but after getting some questions on substance groups and how it will all work after the first deadline under UK REACH after 1st of May, we decided to throw in this extra webinar to give you some guidance what you can expect and how you can start discussing with other potential co-registrants under UK REACH, things around data sharing, nomination of the lead registrant, and all the issues associated with that. Here with me today is Jana Trávníčková, who will be ready to answer all your questions you might have. If you still have any questions after today's webinar related to the substance groups, to UK REACH or also EU REACH, please don't hesitate to come back to us. We are providing full package of EU REACH and UK REACH compliance services. Today, I will just briefly explain once again the difference between grandfathering and downstream user import notifications, because we are still getting questions around that, and sometimes it might get confusing, so I will try to clarify that. Then I will focus on different ways, there are actually two, of becoming part of the substance groups. And then we will leave some time for questions and answers. The presentation shouldn't take longer than 10 minutes, so I believe there will be still some space for your questions. Who can apply for grandfathering and downstream user import notifications? So starting with the grandfathering, it's quite simple. The grandfathering process is reserved for GB-based manufacturers, importers, and only representatives, under one condition, that these are companies or entities who previously held an EU REACH registration between 29th of March of 2017 and 31st December 2020. So if you fall under this category, you are eligible for grandfathering, and you can basically take over your previous EU REACH registrations to benefit from extended deadlines for UK REACH registrations. We covered in detail all around grandfathering and downstream user import notifications in one of our previous webinars, so feel free to watch that if you need any further information. For downstream user import notifications, at the first sight, situation is very simple. Eligible can be anybody else who isn't eligible for the grandfathering notification. But then again, there is one precondition and certain other conditions that you need to meet. What I mean by anybody else is either GB-based legal entities who are importing substances into Great Britain through existing EU REACH registrations of their suppliers. So if you are buying from an EU-based supplier who has a valid existing EU REACH registration, you can import substances into Great Britain based on their registration. Again, there is one precondition. I will get to that. And it's also possible to nominate an only representative. So if you are planning to import chemicals through only representative, GB-based of course, you can be eligible for the downstream user import notification as well, under one precondition, that at least one import to Great Britain was already made in 2019 or 2020. So you cannot just come to Great Britain out of the blue and start importing completely new substances, non-registered substances, or substances which you weren't importing in 2019 and 2020. Today, we're going to talk about substance groups. What is it? Substance groups are very similar to what we knew under EU REACH as SIEFs, Substance Information Exchange Fora. So it's a group of potential co-registrants of the same substance, as simple as that. What is it for? Again, the purpose is exactly the same as the purpose of SIEFs under EU REACH. So first of all, to arrange data sharing and cost sharing amongst the co-registrants. So how will you, under what conditions you will be sharing the data and costs for your joint submissions, for your joint registrations, which of course includes the step of nominating the lead registrant. There are three good reasons to become part of the substance groups rather soon, sooner than later. Sorry, not 3 good reasons. There are 2 good reasons. I just forgot to change the title. First reason is to have your say in nominating the lead registrant. So especially if you are considering becoming the lead registrant, you definitely should join the conversations as soon as possible, definitely before somebody else steps in and is nominated as the lead registrant or claims the role of the lead registrant. We will be covering this specific topic on the 4th of May in a webinar dedicated specifically to the role and reasons why you might want to consider or not consider becoming the lead registrant, the pros and cons. And second good reason is to get at least some control over the shared costs. What I mean by that, those of you who have experience from EU REACH SIEFs, you know very well that there are basically 2 options. Either you join the substance group, formerly known as SIEF, at the stage when everything is basically decided, you just get an agreement to sign, you just get a letter of access to buy with some price, and everything is already set up in the substance group, and you just sign it, pay the costs, and you have basically no control over the costs, how the costs are calculated, how the costs are generated. For example, what consultants will be leading the group, what expertise you will outsource as the substance group, which ultimately, of course, affects the cost because there are different service providers with different costs, and that can ultimately affect the final cost of your registration. So the later you join, the less space there will be for you to change anything within the substance group. If you have any other experience, please feel free to share it. But that's our experience, that often companies were joining the SIEFs at the stage where everything was already decided, and they just had to follow the crowd. How to become part of a substance group? There are 2 general routes based on the 2 different obligations you might have or options you might have, either grandfathering or downstream user import notifications. So the route number 1, through grandfathering, you don't need to do anything besides submitting your grandfathering notifications. So after submitting your grandfathering notifications until the end of April, the clock is ticking. After that, you don't need to do anything and you will automatically become part of a substance group. Route number 2, through downstream user import notification and inquiry. That's an important part to highlight. There are 2 required steps. If you want to benefit from the downstream user import notifications and then join the substance group, you also need to do the inquiry. As simple as that. First, you submit the downstream user import notification. Second step, submit an inquiry. But only after that, you will become part of the substance group. So only after that, you will see the list of other potential co-registrants. You will get contacts, emails to be able to communicate with them. So if you just submit your downstream user import notification, you get the extended deadline for full registration, but you don't get the list of other potential co-registrants. To get that, you need to submit an inquiry, which is a necessary step before your full registration anyway. So we can strongly advise you, if you already have the data for the inquiry, if you already have the chemical analysis and other required information, it's definitely beneficial to do the inquiry again sooner rather than later. We also covered the topic of inquiry and what's necessary to submit the inquiry. We covered it in one of our previous webinars, so you can find it on YouTube if you want to watch it. The deadline for downstream user import notifications is 27 October, so there is still quite some time. What's next? I can see one question. Would you like to take a look at that, Jana, or?
Yes, so I think it's only comment. Mrs. Yvonne told that there is a route 3, and it is also possible submit the new registration of substance. So it's also the option how to be part of substance groups.
Great point. Thank you for that. That's perfectly right. Thank you. I automatically skipped this, but it's true that if you directly do the inquiry without downstream user import notification, you will become part of the substance group. But at the same time, you will not get the extended period for registration. So to get the extended period for registration, you need to submit the downstream user import notification. So basically, route number 3, going directly to the inquiry, works perfectly well if you have the intention to directly register your substances fully without the downstream user import notification. So basically before 27th of October 2021, if you intend to do the full registration already, then you don't need to worry about the DUIN, the downstream user import notification. Thank you for that, Yvonne. Good point. We have one more comment from Ivan. Consider it may take several days for the UK authorities, the UK HSE, to finalize or approve your inquiry. Perfectly valid point. I cannot agree more. Thank you. So it seems that some of you could be doing this webinar instead of me. I'm very happy to have your support. Thank you. Getting back to what's coming next. As I mentioned already, the substance groups will be automatically established after the first deadline for grandfathering, so after the 30th of April 2021. And after becoming part of the substance group, either through grandfathering or through downstream user import notification and inquiry, or only inquiry, you will get all the information about other potential co-registrants in your UK Reach IT, so in the comply with UK Reach system. So the mechanism or the tools are basically the same or similar to what we experienced under EU Reach with Reach IT and pre-registrations. You will get contacts to the other notifiers of the same substance, and then you can discuss with them who will be the lead registrant and how you will share the costs and data. That's it. Next week, we have another regular webinar coming. We want to focus on the safety data sheet this time, because we are getting some questions concerning whether the safety data sheets which were issued or updated in 2020 before Brexit, before the end of transition period, if they are still compliant, what changed, what needs to be changed, and whether you need to update your safety data sheets. If you want to know answers to that, join the webinar next week. And as I mentioned, after the first grandfathering, after the only grandfathering deadline, we will start focusing on the pros and cons of becoming the lead registrant. So the substance groups will be formed by then. Within this webinar, we have the intention also to share the first experience with the substance groups, what you can see in the UK Reach IT system. For those of you, for example, who will not have your submissions done yet because you have the longer deadline for downstream user import notification. So we will share some first-hand experience, how it works and what you can expect. I can see another question in the Q&A's window. Sophie is asking, why forming the substance group so early? Is it to allow GB-based manufacturers who could start earlier the notifications through the grandfathering to become lead more easily? My assumption would be that the UK authorities want to establish the substance groups as soon as possible to leave as long time for the potential co-registrants, as long time as possible. Because we all know the discussions can get lengthy. 2 years for the substances which need to be registered in the highest tonnage band, above 1,000 tons per year. 2 years can fly really quickly. So my assumption is that the UK authorities really want to establish the substance group as early as possible. And the earliest it is possible is that as soon as they have a complete picture of who might potentially be the co-registrants, at least under the grandfathering provisions. At the same time, it's not penalizing the others. It's not penalizing the downstream user import notifiers, because they can also do their DUINs already now. They can submit the inquiry already now. So I cannot see really any non-fair or discriminatory issue with that. I hope that answered Sophie's question. Next week, we will also be leading the post-Brexit compliance stream within a virtual conference, and you have the privilege to get a 30% discount with a promo code we will be sending to you after the webinar. We already did quite a lot of webinars on UK Reach on all different kinds of topics. So if there's anything you might need or what is relevant for you, you can watch it on YouTube. And of course, we will be posting anything new there as well. Don't panic, the button still works, definitely, at least with us, but I believe with any decent consultants. So if you need any help with grandfathering, if you need any help with downstream user import notifications, if you need a GB-based only representative, or in general, if you need any help with UK Reach or EU Reach compliance, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of our consultants. Dan is asking, who will be the facilitator of the substance group? The information to be submitted to UK HSE for an inquiry is the same as that under the EU Reach or not. Who will be the facilitator of the substance group? That's perfectly up to your discussions in the substance group. So under EU Reach, we encountered situations where there was dead silence. Nobody wanted to step forward and volunteer for becoming the facilitator and leading the discussions. I strongly believe that under UK Reach, it will be a little different because there is a lot of experience already from EU Reach. Ultimately, it's usually the one who needs the registration the most steps forward, or typically it's those companies who already own data and they want to discuss proactively with the others under what conditions they can benefit from the data they already have at hand. So there's no cookbook for who will be the facilitator. You need to discuss that within your substance group, but there are some examples. Typically those who need the registration the most or those who already have some data. The information to be submitted for UK HSE for an inquiry is pretty much the same. There are no major differences. So you need analytical data, you need, of course, identification of your company, you need...
substance identification? So it means identifiers, number?
Yeah, basic identifiers supported with analytical data,
yes.
And you need the hazard profile, right? Classification.
Classification, yes.
Yeah. If you need the full list of items that are needed, we can provide you with that, or we already covered that in one of our previous webinars as well. But basically, it's the same. What else do we have? Kavita, downstream user import notification eligibility criteria. As I mentioned, first of all, it's called the downstream user import notification. So you need to be downstream user in terms of the situation before Brexit or before the end of transitional period, end of 2020. So if you were buying substances from your supplier who was EU Reach registered, that's one precondition to be eligible. And the second precondition is that you actively needed to import the substances to Great Britain either in 2019 or in 2020. There is no tonnage threshold or quantity threshold. Even if it was just 1 gram of the substance that you imported and you are able to prove that, then you are eligible for the downstream user import notification. The situation can get a little more complex when we are talking about only representatives. When you were importing the substances through only representative, it depends on your particular situation. The supply chain scenarios can get quite complex, so I would advise you to come back to us if you need any further help, if you have some doubts. Jana, is there any particular question that struck your eyes that you think is the most relevant for everybody to hear it out loud?
Yes, it's a question from Shirley. And she's asked if we submit grandfathering and intend to take a lead role under UK REACH. Do we have submit the full lead dossier soon after taking the lead role? Do we still have the extended deadline for full registration? So I think it's a very interesting question, because you have still 30 days after the transition period when you can submit the full registration dossier for your substance. So it means that if you would like to be a lead registrant and to have all required data, and to also have the permission to use this data under UK REACH or for UK REACH purpose, so you have to submit your registration dossier as soon as possible, because you have this data and you can submit, you can use them. So I think it's highly appreciated and recommended when you submit this as soon as possible. And regarding the second part of questions, so if we have the extended deadline for the full registration, so it's yes, because it depends, because it is in each guidance it's written that you have 30 days after the end of transition period, plus 2, 4, or 6 years, depending on the hazardous profile of substance and the tonnage band. So you have also the extended deadline.
If I may add to that, the mechanism is the same as under EU REACH. So the lead registrant has to submit the lead registrant dossier first, and then the co-registrants follow with their own joint submissions. So you need to leave some time before the hard deadline, before the 2, 4, or 6 years, to leave still some space for the co-registrants to submit their joint submissions. But at the end of the day, it's up to you in the substance group to agree on the conditions when the lead registrant dossier will be submitted. So this is typically governed by the agreements within the group of co-registrants. Mm-hmm. There's no legal deadline. Thank you for joining us today. It was brief today, but I believe comprehensive, I hope. We will take care of the rest of the questions and answers in the Q&A sheet, which we will send to you in a few days. And enjoy your day, and we are happy to see you next time. Thank you.